Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here again with Carson. Say hi.
Hi.
And we also have our son Bennett. You can probably see his head popping up right here. A lot of y'all said y'all wanted to meet him in the last video and y'all wanted him to be in that video. So here he is in all of his glory. Say hi, Bennett. Say hi. He's like, what's going on? Alright, so he's going to be in this video, in and out probably. If he starts getting fussy, we're going to lay him on his mat in front of us. So if y'all hear him cooing or talking around, just ignore it. That's Bennett. So today we're going to be filming the video on how on how we found out I was pregnant and how we told our family too. So to preface this whole story, I was on birth control, and I was on birth control for like 3 years on the same pill, never had any problems with it. And then I got pregnant in May. I think in May is when...
Towards the end of May.
Yeah, is when I got pregnant. And I got my wisdom teeth taken out at the end of April, I believe. So, and I also got a dry socket when I had my wisdom teeth taken out. So I was off of my birth control pills for, I don't know, probably like a week or so. Just because I wasn't feeling good. I just got my wisdom teeth taken out and I had a dry socket, so I was taking antibiotics, which I didn't know at the time that antibiotics could cancel out your birth control. So even if I was taking my pills, it probably would have canceled it out anyways. But after that all healed up, I started taking my pills again. And I don't know, if you're a girl, you know this. So you have sugar pills at the last week of every pack you have, and that's the time that you're supposed to get your period. Well, I used to always skip those and just go on to my next pack so I wouldn't like ever have a period. It's not good. Don't recommend it. You should always take your sugar pills. But I did not want to mess with that. I hated it. So I just always skipped packs. So in May last year, I decided just to go ahead and take my sugar pills because I was feeling kind of like PMS-y, if you know what I'm saying. And so I took my sugar pills. Nothing ever happened. My stomach was hurting and I was like PMSing, like full on having like period symptoms. And so I thought something was wrong with me. I thought, hey, it's okay. I went to the doctor. She goes, well, you know, if you're having like these symptoms, you could be pregnant. And she goes, is there any chance that you could be pregnant? And I was like, no, there's no way. I didn't even, like in the back of my head, I didn't even think about it. I was like, no, there's no way. Like I'm not pregnant. So I take those pills. She told me that once I finished those pills, and I didn't get my period, if I didn't get my period within 7 days after finishing the pills that she gave me, that I had to call her back. I guess after I finished taking those pills, like 2 or 3 days later, I started getting really nauseous and really sick to my stomach, and I was still cramping. And so my whole family was in Indiana, I think they were. No, they were in Detroit for my younger sister's volleyball national tournament. So we had the house to ourselves, obviously. And I went and got crab and we ate it. Nothing happened. And that next morning, I woke up and I was really sick to my stomach. I remember Carson was in the living room and I went to my parents' bathroom because I didn't want him to hear me like throwing up. And I didn't want him to ask what was wrong because I didn't know it was wrong. And I like straight up thought I had food poisoning. So,
Hey, buddy.
sorry.
I don't know what he did. Oh, he questioned my own message.
Bennett, when we're holding Bennett and we have our Apple Watches right there, if we're holding him on the side that our watch is on, he'll like touch the watch. And I just got a notification that Carson texted me and Bennett totally just did it from his watch. It's so funny. Anyways, moving on. So my family was out of town, we had crab, and then after I threw up that next morning, I told Carson, I was like, do you feel okay? Because I'm pretty sure I got like food poisoning from that crab. I didn't know if it was like not good or like it wasn't cooked all the way. I didn't know. So he goes, no, I feel fine. And that whole day I felt terrible, and he kept telling me, he's like, you're pregnant, like you're pregnant. And I'm like, no, I'm not pregnant, like there's no way. And mind you, this has been like 2 weeks since I went to the doctor. So I should be getting my period by now. And I'm telling him, you know, I do not feel good. Like, I really think I have food poisoning. And he goes, no, you're pregnant. Like, I'm telling you right now, you're pregnant. And I'm like, Carson, can you just shut up? So the whole time I was just like, shut up. Like, I'm not pregnant. There's no way. And so that night I got off of work, and me and Carson would usually get home from work around the same time. And I decided that I was going to go to CVS and get a pregnancy test and not tell him about it. I was like, no, I'm just gonna do it, and I'm just gonna prove him wrong. Like, I'm not pregnant. I'm just gonna take the test. It's gonna be negative, and then I'm gonna prove it and rub it in his face, you know.
Or do you want to leave him there?
Who is that? Who's that little boy? Who's that cute boy? Yeah. So Carson worked all day. He'd go in early. He'd have to leave early anyways because he worked like an hour away from where we live. And I was planning on taking a test, and so I woke up that morning, still did not feel good, and I was like, oh my gosh, that freaking crab, like, it made me really sick. I was like, I'm never eating crab again. So I took the test, and literally, I remember, as soon as I took the test, I had it, like, a line popped up, like, immediately, and I was like, oh my god, like, Carson's right.
Daddy intuition, what can I say?
I was like, there's no way. I didn't believe it. So I immediately, like, I took a picture of it, and I Snapchatted them, and I was like, no, this is, you know, like, this can't be right. I'm just going to go back to CVS, and I'm going to buy another test.
6 more.
And so I went back to CVS, like, literally immediately. Like, I threw clothes on and went to CVS, and it's like 9 a.m., and I go and I grab every single test that they had on the shelf, and she just kind of looked at me, and she didn't say anything about it, but it was just like, it was a low moment for me.
How was that a low moment?
I don't know. I look back on it and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, I had one really positive pregnancy test. I should have just known. Well, so then I come back home. I literally take all of them, and I'll set them on the counter, and I'm texting Carson. All of the tests were positive. I even took 2 digital tests, and they both said pregnant on there. And right then and there, I was like, oh my god, like, I did not believe it. Like, I was really in shock. I felt every emotion possible. I went to the doctor that day, and I got blood work done, and they confirmed that I was pregnant, and they were like, yeah, you're like 8 weeks pregnant. And I'm like,
6 to 8. Yeah,
they were like around 6 to 8 weeks pregnant based on your, like, HCG levels. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, and then I went to the store that night, and I bought another test and took it the next morning because I just wanted to confirm, you know? I wanted to have a little backup and make sure that I really was pregnant before I told my mom. Because I wanted to be extra sure that I knew I was pregnant before I told her, because what if I told her and it was all a fluke and I wasn't really pregnant, and then I would be in some big trouble. Like, I did not want that to happen. And I ended up texting him while he was at work, like we said in our previous video. If you saw the couples tag video. If you haven't, I'm going to go ahead and link it in the description box. So I need to go check that out, because you kind of get a backstory of me and Carson. So yeah, I'm going to leave that in the description box below. So if you haven't seen that, go ahead and check that video out. Anyways, moving on to how we told our parents. I had FaceTimed my older sister and told her that I was pregnant. I showed her the pregnancy test that day, and I told her, I was like, you know, I think I'm going to ask mom to lunch, and we're going to come out to where you live, kind of, so you can meet us there, and you can kind of back me up. And so I asked my mom, I was like, when exactly are I supposed to fly in? Like, do y'all want to go to lunch this next day? And my mom just kind of thought we were having a girls' day because of how I kind of mentioned it, you know, like, I miss you, like, let's go to lunch, like, Caitlin's going to meet us there. So the night before we're supposed to go to lunch, my mom is like, oh, let's ask Aunt Vicky if she wants to go. Like, let's ask her if she wants to go to lunch. And I couldn't say anything because I wanted to tell my mom at lunch in public. So if she got mad, she couldn't really scream at me because we'd be in public. So my aunt ended up going, long story short, a few weeks prior to all this happening, I had joked around with my mom and my sister and my aunt that I was pregnant. And, like, I obviously was pregnant at the time, but didn't know it. And so I knew that if I didn't have proof that I was pregnant, they were not going to believe me. So I brought a Ziploc bag with all 8 pregnancy tests in there. And we're sitting at the table. It's busy, mind you. We're at Chili's. and it's lunchtime, so it's pretty busy. It's a Saturday, and I just like started bawling my eyes out. I could not talk, and I was shaking. Oh my gosh, I was so nervous. I was so scared. I thought she was gonna be really upset and just pissed off at me, and she just kind of knew when I started crying. I never said that I was pregnant. She just kind of knew. She looked at my sister and she goes, "Do you know?" And my sister just kind of shook her head. And I told Caitlin, my older sister, I was like, "You can just tell her, like, you tell her, like, I can't." And so my aunt ended up guessing. She goes, "You're pregnant." And I just kind of shook my head. I was just like bawling. And my mom's like, "No, like, no, you're not." And she was just kind of speechless. And so I reach into my purse and I grabbed my Ziploc baggie of all my pregnancy tests and I just plopped them on the middle of the table in the middle of Chili's. So that's kind of how I told my parents. And then at the same time I was telling my parents, Carson went over to his parents' house and he was telling them, like, I didn't want to be there if his parents were upset, and I didn't want him to be there if my mom was upset, because then I didn't want us to get yelled at.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to do it on my own, and that's why we did that. And then we ended up telling other family members and everyone else later on once I was further along. So yeah, that's kind of how I found out and told Carson and told my mom and my sister. Like, I still think it's funny. Like, I think back on that time and I kind of laugh because it's kind of funny. Like, usually the girl thinks she's pregnant and the guy's like, "No, like, you're fine."
And I'm not the father.
But totally, like, it was totally opposite for us. Like, I had no idea I was pregnant, and I was totally in denial about it. But, yeah, so that was the story on how I found out I was pregnant, how I told Carson and my parents, and, yeah. So we hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and comment down below if you want to hear more about my pregnancy and everything that went on during it. It was an interesting one. It was very interesting. So yeah, and if you want to see any more of my future uploads, go ahead and hit subscribe, and there's a little bell next to that you can be notified every time I post, so go ahead and turn that on also. Bennett, it's okay, honey. Be happy. We gotta say bye. Alright, we'll see you next time. Bye.